Everyone is buzzing about the NBA's investigation into the Clippers and a bankrupt sponsor that allegedly funneled millions to Kawhi Leonard. The surface-level narrative is simple and intoxicating. If the league proves cap circumvention, Kawhi's contract could be voided, and the Lakers might scoop him up for nothing, forming a Hollywood super team overnight. It's the kind of storyline that lights up group chats and breaks the internet, but that narrative leaves out the rules, the precedents, and the power dynamics actually at play behind the scenes. What you're not hearing is that voiding a superstar contract is the league's nuclear option, and even if the league ever pushed that button, it wouldn't magically gift the Lakers anything. This saga isn't about a free ride to a purple and gold dynasty, it's about a paper trail, a bankrupt eco-finance company, and a commissioner with broad disciplinary powers trying to prove intent under one of the most aggressive CBAs the NBA has ever had. Today, we're spilling the real story. The alleged $28 million no-show endorsement, why second apron rules slam the brakes on fantasy super teams, how a 25-year-old precedent still haunts cap schemes today, what Kawhi's camp's past whispers do and do not mean in 2025, and the cold, unglamorous reality of what the league is actually likely to do if it finds wrongdoing. Let's start with the part everyone's skipping. Even in the wildest scenario where a contract is voided, the Lakers don't just wake up to a free Kawhi. Under the current CBA, second apron teams are boxed in like never before. You can't execute sign-and trades if the incoming salary keeps you above that apron. You can't stack exceptions to MacGyver cap space out of thin air. If you're already spending like a contender, you're hemmed in by matching rules, hard restrictions on future picks, and a world of limitations that exist specifically to stop instant super team pull-offs. So if the fantasy is that a league punishment to the Clippers would open a secret trapdoor straight to Staples, sorry, crypto, it doesn't survive contact with the rulebook. The Lakers would still have to live inside the same math as everyone else. They would need cap room that doesn't exist, or a sign-and-trade that the rules forbid over the apron, or a multi-team maze that founders on base year compensation and matching bans. Even a waived or voided player doesn't magically teleport to the team of his choice without the salary mechanics lining up. That's the league's new reality, anti-shortcuts by design to protect competitive balance and stop billionaire owners from brute-forcing outcomes. Now for the bombshell that made this more than just a message board theory, the paper trail. The story that detonated this week zeroes in on a now bankrupt sustainability company that allegedly paid Kawhi 8 figures for endorsements he barely, if ever, performed. The hook is the conflict of interest. The Clippers' billionaire owner had invested heavily in that same company around the time Kawhi recommitted. If a sponsor tied to ownership is cutting massive checks that correlate with a player's team decision, and there's little to no evidence of actual promotional work, that looks less like marketing and more like a side door into the player's pocket that never hits the cap sheet. That's not a small technicality, that's the exact kind of third-party circumvention the CBA was rewritten to kill. This is why the league hired a top-shelf law firm, and why the commissioner is invoking his very broad powers on the record. The league doesn't go outside for help unless it believes there's something to actually subpoena, cross-check, and reconcile against sworn bankruptcy filings and creditor schedules. If there are emails, invoices, scopes of work, or timeline overlaps that show intent to influence a contract decision with off-book cash, that is the cap equivalent of red dye in the swimming pool. And if that's ever proven, the league is staring at a make-or-break integrity call. Fines, draft picks, suspensions, and yes, potentially voiding of deals. That's not Twitter fantasy. That's written into the system for when both the team and the player's side are found to be in on it. The nuclear option exists whether or not the league actually detonates it. But here's where the plot twists again, because the loudest story rarely survives the microscope. Everyone remembers the Joe Smith scandal in Minnesota. Secret promises, under-the-table agreements, and the commissioner dropping the hammer with voided contracts and a bonfire of draft picks. That precedent hangs over every cap circumvention case, but it also shows you what the league needs to go nuclear. Receipts, real ones. Not whispers, not vibes, not "we all know what happened." The Timberwolves got crushed because there were actual documents and agreements that tied future money to a present decision. Absent that, talk is talk. That's why the league keeps saying it won't act on appearances. An endorsement with a sponsor isn't illegal on its face. A wealthy owner investing in a company isn't illegal on its face. A player doing fewer activations than expected isn't illegal on its face. The question is whether there's a line connecting those dots with intent to circumvent the cap rules and whether both sides knew exactly what that line was for. Proving that is hard. And if there's no smoking gun, the league's most likely move is targeted. Fines, future restrictions, maybe draft penalties designed to send a message without detonating a mega contract and rewriting a franchise's trajectory overnight. If you feel deja vu here, it's because Kawhi's orbit has lived near this line before. Go back to 2019. There were rumblings that his camp asked for perks that teams simply couldn't legally provide. There was a lawsuit from a figure claiming he helped recruit Kawhi with promises of money. There were voicemails leaked with a legend in a very unflattering light. The league looked, and nothing came of it. No voids, no mega penalties, no team got gifted a championship by a judge's order. And that's not to say this case is the same. It isn't. This time there's a bankrupt company, angry creditors, and a federal fraud trail around people adjacent to the money. That gives investigators more to dig through than memories and text messages. But it also doesn't automatically convert into a cap crime. Remember, endorsements happen often with sponsors who also do business with the team. The line is when the sponsor is used as a stealth conduit for team money, when the deliverables are essentially imaginary, or when timing and emails make it clear that the marketing deal was a recruitment or retention bonus by another name. That's the fight. That's why Wachtell is involved, and that's why the commissioner is openly reminding everyone of his disciplinary reach, to signal that if the proof is there, the penalty will scale with it. So where does that leave the Lakers' fantasy? Even if a contract gets voided, a massive if, the next chapter is not a blockbuster press conference on Figueroa, the union would almost certainly file a grievance. The system arbitrator would review whether voiding meets the bar set by the CBA. The player's side would argue that he relied on team assurances, that a sponsor deal isn't his cap math to police, and that the remedy should punish the team, not erase the player's livelihood. The league, on the other hand, would argue that you can't let a contract stand if it was procured outside the system. That fight takes time. Meanwhile, the Lakers still live in an apron-heavy reality with limited tools. If Kawhi somehow hits the market, he's not a buy one get one at the team shop. He's a max caliber player in a rule set that blocks expensive talent from teleporting onto capped out rosters. The only way past that is cap space, which the Lakers aren't built to have, or complex trades that rules like base year compensation and the 110% matching band make brutally difficult. The free super team is a great tweet. It's not a plan. Let's talk about the Clippers' actual risk profile, which is the part no one wants to sit with. The likely consequences, if wrongdoing is proved, look like this: hefty fines that run into the millions, first-round draft picks on the chopping block, and potential suspensions or bans for executives deemed responsible. Competitive windows get shorter when futures disappear. A team that just opened a landmark arena and built an identity around a deep, expensive rotation would have its future mortgaged by penalties that hit where it hurts: the draft and the balance sheet. The irony is brutal. The supposed shortcut to keep a star could end up costing the very assets you needed to support him and the flexibility you needed to fix things when injuries inevitably hit. And the league absolutely understands the politics here. It cannot appear to protect a billionaire owner at the expense of rules it trumpeted 2 summers ago. If the evidence is clean, the punishment will be designed not only to fit the crime, but to be seen fitting the crime. That's the deterrence game. It's not about gifting a rival. It's about sending a message to every team with a constellation of sponsors and a star's marketing portfolio: do not blur those lines. There's also a human layer people are glossing over. Kawhi Leonard has built a reputation, fair or not, on quiet control. He chooses his teams, his surgeries, his timelines, and his privacy. To the extent any of this sticks to him personally, it threatens that control. A voided contract or even a months-long arbitration is chaos. It's uncertainty about where you'll play, when you'll get paid, and who gets to decide your next move. Players around the league watch that and shiver. No superstar wants the precedent that a sponsor deal can boomerang into their base contract if the league doesn't like the optics. That's why the union will defend the principle, even if the facts are ugly. The CBA has to mean you can rely on your deal unless there's undeniable, provable collusion to evade the system. That's the line the league has to toe. Harsh enough to protect the cap. Careful enough not to create a world where players are scared to sign endorsement checks with any brand that has a suite inside their arena. Zoom out and the superior reality comes into focus. The Lakers aren't the protagonist of this story. The rulebook is. The CBA has been moving toward this moment for years. More teeth, fewer loopholes, tighter restrictions on the exact kind of creativity that used to be celebrated as savvy. Owners loved living in the gray. The new league wants black and white. That's why this case matters. If the NBA nails down proof, it will make an example out of it. Not to engineer a Hollywood ending, but to scare off the next clever idea cooking inside a sponsorship deck. If it can't nail down proof, it will still find a way to communicate the same message through lesser penalties and maybe some new language in the next memo to teams and agents. Either way, the days of assuming a billionaire can use his portfolio to sweeten a recruitment behind the cap sheet are closing. The Lakers can dream. The internet can dream, but the reality is written in legalese, not on Photoshop mock-ups of Kawhi in gold and purple. So here's the truth that actually moves the needle. This investigation isn't a plot to deliver Kawhi across the hallway for free. It's a stress test for the NBA's promise that the new CBA means what it says. If the receipts exist, emails, contracts, testimony, the league has the authority to slam the Clippers with fines, strip future picks, and in a worst-case scenario, tear up paperwork that never should have been signed. If the receipts don't exist, the Clippers walk bruised but standing, and the league chalks up another lesson in how close you can skate to the line without technically crossing it. Either way, the Lakers' dreams run into the same wall: math, rules, and a second apron that was built to stop exactly this outcome. The drama is real. The consequences could be severe. But the fairy tale shortcut to a super team? That's the expectation. The reality is a lot more complicated and a lot less generous to Hollywood endings. Outro. What you've just heard goes beyond the clicky headline. The investigation is serious because the money trail is unusual, the sponsor is bankrupt, and the optics are terrible. But the NBA's remedies aren't designed to rewrite the balance of power by accident. They're designed to protect the system. The lesson for fans is this: the league can punish, it can deter, it can even void if it has the goods, but it won't reward a rival for someone else's crime. If you want to see how this plays out in real life, don't watch the rumor mill, watch the rule book and the arbitrator's docket. And if you want more stories like this, where the public narrative says one thing and the private reality proves another, cue up our Locker Room Confidential playlist next. We break down the Joe Smith precedent that still scares front offices, the hidden ways second apron math kills superstar fantasies, and the quiet memos that shape the next free agency before the first Woj bomb ever drops. The story isn't over, it's just moving from Twitter to testimony, and that's where the real spill always lives.